What's happening, traders? This is Jeff Kohler, aka The Option Addict, from www.optionaddict.net. And I'm sure you guessed what time it is. It's time to unleash another weekly watch list. We're actually coming off a pretty spectacular list of stocks from last week. In fact, we saw a lot of the things that we've been talking about on the website start to play out. Higher stock prices, strengthening in the dollar, weakening in crude oil. Whether or not those things continue this week, I'm kind of watching the news over the weekend to see how overseas tensions continue. But when you sit back and you look at what's been going on here in the overall market, in the dollar, in crude oil, these trends are probably going to stabilize a little bit. Now, I don't think we're going to see too much of a pullback. If, for example, I happen to be looking at a chart of the S&P 500, and I'm sure you're thinking what I'm thinking is that now that we've broken above this level, we'll obviously probably try to use that as a support in the short term. And so now that we've got higher prices above this level, we can use this to manage our risk. Also, I'm still keeping an eye on this ascending trend line here so that, hey, if I know when to get bearish on the market as soon as the floor gives out here, that's an easy way to start turning the ship and leaning to more of a delta negative portfolio strategy. As of right now, though, I would not be surprised to see the dollar stabilize a little bit. If you look at the chart of the DXY, my compadre, the Macromaniac, saw this trend coming, and it's been working out pretty well. So as far as my approach heading into this week, still a little bit of the same, although I am a little more cautious because we did get the moves that we wanted. We did get them in kind of a fast and furious fashion. I am keeping an eye out for these pullbacks, and until further notice, I'm going to use those pullbacks to buy dips. As far as this week's concerned, economic data, we've got retail sales and CPI were the biggest things on my radar, and more earnings this week. Again, we're kind of working our way out of earnings season. I think the last companies that are going to announce are going to be retailers this week, so keep an eye out for those. So in terms of what I've come up with after searching through a sea of thousands of stocks, I'm going to start with a few dips, rips, breakouts, and breakdowns. So here you go. Alright, well, let's get into the price patterns. I'm going to start with ticker symbol EXM, one of the old dry shippers here, Excel Maritime Carriers. And what I'm seeing here in terms of this recent breakdown is prices have stabilized a little bit, and we're seeing a nice little bear flag. So watch for a breakout to the downside here of around about $30 per share for what should be setting up for about a 7-point move to the downside. Next, I've got Borg Warner, ticker symbol BWA. Beautiful. Very good looking symmetrical triangle here. Very, very nice breakout. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add volume. I'm not sure why it's hidden here. Volume was pretty underwhelming on this breakout. But if you see a retest here, I think the trade is still very easy to manage. Next, I've got Express Scripts, ESRX. And what you're seeing here, the nice little rounded bottom formation. We talked about the double bottom right through here. If you recall, this was on the watch list not too long ago. And since then, we've got a pretty nice move, about a 10% move in the underlying. But now what I'm watching here is this level right at about 73, 74. Once that gives way, I think this is going to provide a great opportunity to get long stock or some calls. Next, I've got Chatham, CHTT. And what I'm seeing here is a nice little... What I'm seeing here is a monster double bottom, about 10 points wide. In fact, this will look really good on a longer term chart if I were to zoom out, which I'll go ahead and do. But also what we got here is a break above the 200-day moving average, and this stock hasn't been above that level, at least not by much, for quite some time. So big double bottom here, one that could present about a 10-point move, which is about 15% move in the underlying, which could eventually take it back up to its highs. So I'm watching it here. It broke out, it retested, now we're rallying above the 200-day. I like the setup. Next, I've got ticker symbol ISCA, the International Speedway Corporation. Now, I'm not much of a NASCAR fan or a racing fan by any stretch, but I do like the price pattern here, and what you can see is a symmetrical triangle. Be advised, it is kind of an illiquid stock, so maybe you pick up some shares, maybe you don't. but I do like the price pattern that's setting up here, and I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for some volume. Next is First Solar. You guys know this. I talked about buying some puts on this actually yesterday, and at the same time closed out of those because, of course, I'm going to be away for the early part of this week. But the breakdown has happened. We got the nice little false breakout here last week. In fact, if you switch over to a line chart, you'll see exactly what I mean. All of a sudden it disappears. So I think this breakout to the downside is something to keep an eye on. I think this might be the catalyst that starts to get those solar stocks to take the next leg lower. Next, you guys know I've been watching CF Industries. We broke out of that triple top. It's confirmed. It's ready to rock. Next is ANR, and this one's still the laggers, still trading up near this right shoulder here at about, $100 or so. I'd like to see this thing roll over, so keep an eye on this because I think once it starts moving, it could be a pretty big move. Next, I already own some puts here on Suntech Power. You guys know that. I bought those on Thursday, but we're getting pretty close to the breakdown, and I think the fact that First Solar is starting to break down could help be a catalyst. What I got here next is CLF. You guys know I've been watching this. It broke down. It confirmed. I like it here. And also ticker symbol EQ. I posted a chart on this on the blog, waiting for this to set a new high right at about 48 or so. And I'm also watching the retailers. I mentioned we got some earnings coming up on some of these, but Coach confirming a double bottom, along with Tiffany is getting it's in that region. But then Kohl's also confirmed an inverse head and shoulders, broke above its 200-day, which it hasn't been above that in quite some time. Earnings coming up here shortly. And JWN. Last week we were watching Target and we got a similar breakout. Well, Nordstrom's starting to break out as well. I think that looks pretty good here. And then in terms of the old back-to-school sales, I think you got to keep an eye on stocks that are near their highs, like Urban Outfitters, which is just now starting to break out to the upside. Ticker symbol ARO, which is still up there towards its highs, and the Buckle, BKE. These are where the teeny boppers shop. And that's a good enough reason of why they go higher. Last few that I'm looking at, JASO, you can see that sort of a triangle pattern here. Lower highs, equal lows, a break below 14. Take the stock right down to about 12, 11. Cheap stock, so I'd prefer a short here. But keep an eye out for earnings. LDK, and this one's been on the radar for quite some time. Earnings coming up. Again, I think these stocks are going to continue to roll over, but whether or not you want to bet that up in front of an earnings announcement, I'll leave that one up to you. I'm also watching in the transport region, UNP, a nice little cup and handle, trading up near its highs. Last two, EXC, beautiful looking bear flag, to the tune of about 7 points or so. And last but not least, First Energy, same thing, kind of a bear flag forming here. One that's about the same, 6-7 points. So that'll conclude the watch list this week. Like I said, I'm going to be out of town. The party wagon leaves for Vegas tomorrow morning. So for those of you addicts that are going to be there, I hear we're meeting Sunday at 5 somewhere in the Bellagio. You can check the blog for the time and location for that. But otherwise, I'll be in there giving a few presentations, and I won't be too far from the blog. I'll be providing updates, because after all, I am going to try to scalp a few trades while I'm there. So whether you're in Vegas or not in Vegas, I hope you have a spectacular week in the market. I think there's going to be some pretty good trade setups here. I think we're going to start to catch fire here pretty soon, and things are going to start rocking and rolling again. So in closing, get out there and make some money this week. And this has been The Option Addict, and that's been my watch list. Thanks for watching.
In the casino, the cardinal rule is to keep them playing and keep them coming back. The longer they play, the more they lose. In the end, we get it all.